Welcome to this place. Here we search for truth and understanding. Here we celebrate life and we contemplate its mysteries. Here we share healing and wholeness. So whoever you are, wherever you come from, whatever you believe, whomever you love, we welcome you to this congregation.
Good morning, I'm Louise Rachin, and today's chalice lighting is by Julianne Lepp, and it's called Open to Unexpected Answers. We seek our place in the world and the answers to our heart's deep questions. As we seek, may our hearts be open to unexpected answers. May the light of our chalice remind us that this is a community of warmth, of wisdom, and welcoming of multiple truths.
Come you accidental pilgrims, you who find yourself on a journey of surprise and wonder. Come, you who emerge into this place as an act of liberation. Come, you who seek a life of mindfulness, a place to test your thoughts. Come, you who bring all of the kinds of heavy hearts, of rusty hearts, hearts broken open in revelation, hearts full of love to share. Come, you who seek courage, and you who have more courage than you can possibly realize. Come, you who stand behind the curtain, gathering up the resources to claim your truth. Come, you who have been in a bubble, you who are poised for transformation. As we do each Sunday, we begin our story again, gathering courage, love, mindfulness, and a sense of profound purpose. Come, let us worship together. For all of those we've lost recently or long ago, I'll now light our candle of remembrance. All right, now please rise in body or in spirit for our opening hymn, Morning So Fair to See, which is number 42 in your gray hymnal. As I think you're all aware of, we as a denomination, the Unitarian Universalist denomination, is in the multi-year process of updating our core principles and values. So one of those is called justice. So I thought there would be no one better than our social justice incubator to simply read the way it's phrased in the new UU values and covenants.
We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive.
We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression.
We support the use of inclusive democratic processes
to make decisions within our congregations, our association, and society at large.
Let's take this time now to quiet our hearts and minds. We enter into this time of prayer and meditation. Start by noticing our breath. Notice how we're feeling this morning. Notice all of those things that are kicking around in the back of your minds. Whatever you're holding, just try to be present here, now. There's so much we're all holding right now. The latest news of the growing conflict in the Middle East that's expanding. Retaliatory strikes. Cycle of violence. This morning I pray that we'll find a better way. Able to reach down into the depths of our compassion, find a way to stop. Many people are being killed, suffering, indiscriminate suffering, children, babies. Call on our better angels, find a way forward. Meantime, let's hold all of those who have been hurt, those who have lost loved ones. Let's hold them with gentle love and compassion. In hopes that our leaders can find a better way forward. Hold all of this in our hearts as we enter into a time of silent meditation. Now I'd invite forward Louise Rachin to share with us the morning's poem.
This morning's prayer is Angela Herrera, by Angela Herrera, and it's called Unexpected. Why do I listen to your calling, O God? Why did I step out on faith? Why did I lift my feet, ignore my fear, and run towards the unknown? Now I'm far from home. My heart aches for my familiar land. The people who greeted me with kisses, I can't see the way back. It doesn't exist. I can't see the way forward, but I long for the place I knew. By the time I find the way, my children will be grown and gone. But today you are silent. The voice that whispered wind into my sails has stilled. Fear rises in me like a tsunami far from shore. Tonight I will sleep without comfort.
Why are you here? What brought you here this morning? What might you be looking for? Each of us will answer those questions in different ways. Some come for social emotional connection. Some come to connect with others and social justice work. Others come because they love to sing. Some come to have their children have spiritual guidance during our religious exploration program. Some come just to have time in their week to maybe figure a few things out. You know, we of course have a lot of visitors and members who come here from other faith traditions. Sometimes a couple with different religious backgrounds will come here hoping to find common ground or a place where both of their traditions will be respected. This is true for many of you. You grew up in different faith traditions and were looking for something that would work for both of you. Same thing is true with my wife and I. Others who come tell me that some of the things that were taught to them as children, they simply no longer make sense to them. Some confess that when they were kids, they were the ones who just kept asking questions. Those in authority called them the troublemakers. Others say that they kept their mouths shut, but inside, they knew that what they were being told couldn't possibly be true. The response of so many who didn't like the answers they were given was to often give up on organized religion completely. I mean, how could any reasonable, thoughtful person claim to be religious? So often I hear that. People talk about religion in the abstract. But what they're referring to is fundamental Christianity that they were raised with. This is a religion. Judaism is a religion. Zoroastrianism is a religion. There are lots of different ways to be religious. And yet, some of these folks have found themselves eventually here inside a Unitarian Universalist congregation. For regardless of how damaged you might have been from your earlier faith experiences, there's something inherently valuable, something innately human about our need to gather in community, to reflect, to ponder, to make sense of the world. For some, it's as simple as a desire for community, or deciding that the kids need religious education, and that UUism isn't as bad as most of the others. Now, some folks I know have been dragged here by a partner, and they come to keep peace in the family. That sound familiar? But others come because there's still some questions that are sticking inside of them, they're yearning to answer. Often when folks do get here, they're pleasantly surprised to find that this is a congregation that values intellectual freedom, that there's no collective gasp heard when folks are asked. In fact, just the opposite. Questions are encouraged. A range of possible answers are discussed, possibilities raised. And in the process of this free exchange of ideas and beliefs, folks will often discover that they're not only surrounded by some like-minded souls, but they're also surrounded by a whole bunch of heretics. That word heretic, it's gotten a pretty bad rap in Orthodox religions. A heretic is considered to be a really, really bad person. Worse than a sinner. Someone who must be removed, eradicated, and as so often has happened over the last 2,000 years, burned at the stake. But in reality, that word heretic simply comes from the Greek hereses. It means simply choice. As a religious heretic, you choose. And that choice means not going along with official religious doctrines, beliefs, and creeds. People assume that it's okay to question orthodox religious doctrines and creeds. People who don't quiver in fear that they'll be punished for daring to raise questions. People who even wear that label, heretic, as a badge of honor. We come here, we ask, what's really real? What's most important to us? What am I looking for? Why spend another Sunday morning in this place? It's a question only you can answer for yourself. Spending a quiet hour each week in an old historic meeting house built 235 years ago, in the middle of the Revolutionary War, time set aside in your weekly life without beeping and blaring of devices, without the distraction of bosses and telemarketers and pundits, surrounded by people who actually care about you. Certainly a good as place as any to ponder the big questions of life. The space is old, tried and true, sturdy, expansive. Here our ancestors surround us with their wisdom from the centuries. Again, we wonder, why are we here? What we find here in this congregation is that often folks are searching for something they can't put their finger on, that void in their lives. Perhaps something that will help them to understand and accept what's going on in their personal lives. But whatever this something is that they're looking for, the folks who end up here don't want their sensibilities to be offended. They're looking for a path that seems true and right and congruent with how they see the world and their place in it. A path that will hopefully lead them towards a more meaningful life. Those of you who have been listening to me preach for a while know that I wouldn't presume to tell you what you should believe or what you should be doing. In my preaching and teaching, I try to be honest and open about my own struggles and my own questions and my big questions that come to me. I would not, or at least I try not, to presume to make these beliefs of mine universal and to tell you that this is what you must believe as well. And yet, sometimes in talking with some of you wish that I would. Sometimes you feel adrift, confused about what life has brought to you and unsure about what to do or think, and figuring it out on our own is hard work. Sometimes we wish we had all the answers in a book. Just tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do. But then, of course, we pause and we take a deep breath and we're ready to admit that this isn't really what we want. So how is it that we Unitarian Universalists go about deciding what is true and right and good? How do we know what it is that we know? On whose authority do we presume to make truth claims? Many of you might not say God. Some of you would. Some of you would claim authority in lots of places. Many of us here have who have been associated at one time in our lives with congregations. They've realized this authority can come from many places. But there is usually one central answer around which all others revolve, and that is our own experience. As liberal UUs, our own experience is often central to our theology. The Reverend Fred Muir has this to say in his book, Heretic's Faith. He says, in Judaism, the most important source of authority is captured perfectly in the musical Fiddler on the Roof. In the prologue, Tevier tells the audience, you may ask, how did these traditions get started? I'll tell you, I don't know, but it's tradition. And because of our traditions, everyone knows who he is and what God expects him to do. Tradition. Tradition often tells Jews everything. Why do we do this one way or another? Because that's the way it's always been done. You don't question tradition. In Roman Catholicism, says Reverend Fred Muir, the source of authority is the church hierarchy. When in doubt, ask a church official. And when a church official doesn't know, he asks a higher church official. And up, and up, and up. The hierarchy decides and rules, which is probably one of the reasons why American Catholics always seem to be giving the world Catholic Church so much trouble. It's difficult to blend Roman Catholic theocracy with government by the people, for the people. Democracy, hierarchy. In Protestantism, Protestant Christianity, some denominations are more steeped in tradition than others. Some churches have very elaborate hierarchies, while others have virtually none. But for the Protestant church, the final source of authority is where? Guesses? Close, but not really. The Bible, that's right. Believe it or not, when the Protestant Reformation formed about 500 years ago, that is when the authority from the hierarchy of the church got put to the people, because at that point people could start to read the Bible, the printing press and all the rest. So the authority was transferred from the Pope or me to the book. That's the difference with a lot of Protestants. And of course, the central authority within Protestantism and Catholicism would be Jesus. So it's not that Unitarian Universalists reject all of these sources of authority. I mean, we have plenty of our own traditions. We even have a hierarchy of sorts. If we think about our 19th century transcendentalist heroes, William Channing, Theodore Parker, Ralph Waldo Emerson, there's many others. But these are folks from the past that we often do turn to for authoritative answers. And the New Testament Christian Gospels have always been a source of authority for some Unitarian Universalists. But the final source of authority for most of us is our own experience. When we get together often in small groups and we talk about this, many will place little credence in religious scripture or in church tradition, or especially in divine revelation as a source of authority. Instead, it's often reason, logic, science, intuition, the natural world, and most of all, personal experience. So what is it that we're all trying to figure out? What are some of the questions that we may be hoping that religion will help us sort out? A lot of these questions have to do with the meaning of life. How can I make sense out of suffering? Why is there so much injustice in the world? Why aren't things fairer? How can I bear all of the losses that I face in my life over and over again? What about my deepest fears? What about forgiving that person who wronged me? What's going to happen when I die? Is this truly all there is? Does God really exist? The thing is that we tend to wrestle with these questions in different ways, and a lot of it depends on how we view the world. We may think of creation as being the work of a loving God who has a plan for how things will unfold, and that we, insignificant as we are part of that unfolding. We may think of creation as continually evolving, moving toward all that is life-giving, all that is life-affirming, a world that is bending toward justice. We are too. We may think of the universe as continually evolving, but that instead of moving toward more unity, it's moving toward more chaos, dissonance, death. That human beings tend to be evil, destructive, and different. Or we may think of the universe as nothing more than a random collection of matter and energy fields, and that life is nothing more than an accident. It truly has no meaning at all. I don't know about you, but sometimes it seems that all of these different ways of viewing the world are swirling around inside of me. Sometimes I turn on the news and that negative view of the universe seems to take hold. Other times, like right now, I take the opposite view. Sometimes it does really seem like we're on a path towards destruction. You think about things like climate change, rampant gun violence, nations at war, war expanding, growing. Well, so many of us just want to tune it all out with our trivial lives, concerns, apathy, all kinds of nonsense to keep us distracted. And so we're left to wonder, can we trust the universe, or must we live with that suspicion and fear? Is our world and the humans who populate it benevolent or evil, or maybe indifferent? Of course, in pondering these questions, it's not only religion that we turn to. There are artists and poets, of course, who catch glimpses of something that is perhaps ultimate. There are the scientists who turn their telescopes towards the heavens and their microscopes towards the smallest things. There are philosophers and psychologists who try to unravel the mysteries of life, and ethicists who ponder it all. There are change makers who go out and demand that the world be tilted towards more justice and equity. And then there are those who turn to religion and attempt to pull it all together. This is hard work. There's no easy answers. I've shared before a story told by the wonderful teacher Parker Palmer, who took part in an Outward Bound program when he was in his 40s. He said he did it because he thought that this would be a good way to shake up his life and learn some things he needed to know. He writes in his memoir, Let Your Life Speak. He says, I chose the week-long course at Hurricane Island off the coast of Maine. I should have known from that name what was in store for me. Next time I will sign up for the course at Happy Gardens or Pleasant Valley. It was a week of great teaching, deep community, and genuine growth. It was also a week of fear and loathing. In the middle of that week, I faced the challenge I feared the most. One of our instructors, he backed me up to the edge of a cliff, 110 feet above solid ground. He tied a very thin rope around my waist, a rope that looked ill-kept to me and seemed to be starting to unravel. He told me to start rappelling down the cliff. Do what? I said. Just go, the instructor explained in typical Outward Bound fashion. So I went and immediately slammed into a ledge some 4 feet down from the edge of the cliff with bone-jarring, brain-jarring force. The instructor looked down at me. I don't think you've quite got it. Right, I said, and being in no position to disagree. So what am I supposed to do? Well, the only way to do this, he said, is to lean back as far as you can. So you have to get your body at right angles to the cliff so that your weight will be on your feet. It's counterintuitive, but it's the only way that it works. Well, I knew that he was wrong, of course. I knew that the trick was to hug the mountain for dear life, to stay as close to the rock face as I possibly could. So I tried this again, my way. And I slammed into the next ledge, another 4 feet down. You still don't have it, the instructor said helpfully. Okay, I said, tell me again what I'm supposed to do. Okay, lean way back, take the next step. The next step was a very big one. But I took it, and wonder of wonders, it works. I leaned back in empty space, eyes fixed on the heavens in prayer, made tiny, tiny moves with my feet, and started descending down the rock face, gaining confidence with every step. Well, I was about halfway down when the second instructor called up from below, "Hey, Parker, I think you better stop and see what's just below your feet." I lowered my eyes very slowly so as not to shift my weight and saw that I was approaching a deep hole in the face of the rock. So to get down, I'd have to actually get around that hole, which meant I could not maintain the straight line of descent I had started to get a little comfortable with. I would need to change course and sling myself around that hole to the left or to the right. I knew for certainty that attempting to do so would lead directly to my death. So I froze, paralyzed with fear. Second instructor let me hang there, trembling in silence for what seemed like a very long time. Finally, she shouted, "Parker, is anything wrong?" Well, to this day, I do not know where my words came from, though I have 12 witnesses to say, in fact, I did speak them. In a high, squeaky voice, I said, "I don't want to talk about it." Then the second instructor, "It's time you learned the Outward Bound motto." Oh, keen, I thought. I'm about to die, and she's going to give me a motto. But then she shouted 10 words I hope never to forget, words whose impact and meaning I can still feel. You can't get out of it, get into it. I'd long believed in the concept of the Word become flesh. But until that moment, I hadn't experienced it. My teacher spoke words so compelling that they had bypassed my mind, went into my flesh, and animated my legs and feet. See, no helicopter would come to rescue me. The instructor on the cliff would not pull me up with the rope. There was no parachute in my backpack. There was no way out of my dilemma except to get into it. So my feet started to move. In a few minutes, I made it safely down. It's a good story. Now, I'm guessing that even if the questions you have lead you to feel a bit uneasy sometimes, your experience is not that of dangling off a cliff, fearing you'll crash to the ground to your death. But, sometimes those questions do grab hold, and the only way to negotiate your way through is to plunge right through them. I'll ask again, why did you come here this morning? I can tell you, regardless of what you're thinking, that by coming here, you are engaging in this beloved community. And you're going to have companions in your plunge. You won't be left dangling on your own, provided, of course, you're willing to share a bit of who you are, what your questions are, what your fears are, what wakes you up in the middle of the night and just won't let you go. And like anything in life, if you're willing to get real, be vulnerable, open your hearts, we'll be there to catch you when you fall. But we know that someday we will fall as well. This is where this congregation can be truly transformative. Group of people who value intellectual freedom and integrity, people who refuse to universalize their own experience, claim that what's true for them, well, that must be true for everyone else as well. People who have diverse ideas, people who know that whatever it is that they believe must be consistent with what is known through reason. That's what we do here, my friends. We hope you'll join us again next Sunday and the Sunday after that. What happens here is really real. Amen? Now I'd invite forward Don Rolfe to introduce the offering.
Well, my name's Don Rolfe. I'm with the Annual Fund Drive Committee. And there's a lot to unpack because a lot of things are occurring at this point. But as Reverend Davis pointed out, we're all here because of this beloved community and the values that it represents. And we support those values in this community with our presence, our activities, and our financial resources. And for this month, we will be sharing our financial resources not only to support our community, but also to express our values through the UU Urban Ministry, which represents our values of social justice as captured in our support of the 8th principle and our discussion on the 2nd article. So with that, we hope you will be very generous in supporting both our internal and external values. And I note, if you look in the order of service, there is a QR code, and you can use PayPal to pay as well. If you use PayPal, do remember there's a service charge, so we hope you'll include that when you're making your donation through PayPal. And with that, we look forward to your generous support of this community.
Please rise in body or in spirit for our closing hymn, Blue Boat Home. It's number 1064 in the Teal hymn.
Standing on these mountains and plains,
As we prepare to leave this sacred community and go out into that wild world, cherish your doubts, for doubt is the servant of truth. Question your convictions, for beliefs too tightly held strangle our mind and our natural wisdom. Suspect all certitudes, for the world whirls on, nothing abides. Yet in our inner rooms full of doubts, of inquiry and suspicion, let a corner be reserved for trust. For without trust, there is no space for communities to gather, for friendships to be forged. Indeed, this is the small corner where we connect and reconnect with each other every Sunday. Let's do it again real soon. Until next time. We'll now extinguish our chalice, but may its light and warmth stay in our hearts till we meet again. Here ends our worship. Let our service begin.